I'm excited for 3v3. I can't wait. And of course, this wonderful episode we have coming up.
Doing good, doing good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, can.
Awesome. Yep. Glad to be back. Really enjoyed myself the last time I was here. So, and it's a good topic that you guys have today as well. So, looking forward to be back. Sure. Yep. So I'm not on Twitch, but I am on YouTube. I've been streaming there for the last couple of years. So if you just go to YouTube and search for Endallbeall, SWGOH, and you'll be able to find me on YouTube. I usually only stream Grand Arena videos, and once in a way I'll upload the odd strategy video. But yeah, that's me on YouTube.
I'm seeing. Okay, people should be able to hear me now. There's always a curveball with OBS, and I never can find out until I go live. All right. No, the mic wasn't muted. It's just for whatever reason I had to reset it in the hardware. We're good now. You didn't miss anything. You all know what it is by now. It's all about them. Moving right along. Gom, how's it going, man?
Hey, man. What's going on? Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Operation Metaverse and all that jazz. It feels like this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, man. Well, I've known Fatal a real long time. He's one of the very, very first supporters of our show. So he's going way back. Yeah, this will be an interesting topic tonight. I think all of us here have different but all viable strategies. It'll be nice to come up with something together that maybe the masses can use. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And right alongside him, we have Gambit's own Xaereth. Hello, hello. I guess this is finally proof that we're not the same person. I didn't think about this before we set this show up. I think we have to cancel the show now. This is very short-lived.
Hashtag debunked.
We screwed up somewhere along the way. Yeah, good to have you, man.
Yeah, that seems like a missed opportunity. Thanks for having me, though, guys. This will be fun.
And last, but certainly not least, we have Yeti. What's up?
Hey, guys. Not too much. I do. I have a YouTube channel, which is swgoyeti, and also on Twitch is swgoyeti. I do my live streaming of Grand Arena Championships. I do some strategy chats sometimes, as well as stream my hilariously fun Cards Against Humanity once a month for my game night, which is always good times. And then on YouTube, I do like news updates. I try to do strategy vids, but I'm still catching up a little bit, so I sometimes don't have the characters needed to do everything right. So. So there's that.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, catching up right now, I can't even imagine. Especially, it's got to be brutal.
It's definitely been an interesting interesting climb. Let's put it that way. So it's always a thing where it's like, okay, how good is this right now, and how is it going to affect me, GAC wise, territory wise, territory battles wise, territory wars wise, etc. So I still am missing a couple of things that I need to work on, and I don't know. We'll get there eventually, I'm thinking.
Well, best of luck to you. All right.
Thank you.
Moving right along, we have a fine 4 selection of topics that we're about to jump into. But at the end, of course, we will be doing community Q&A. So if you guys want to work on those questions now, toss them in the chat now. I'll be collecting them over the course of the stream, and we'll be good to get you by the end. So yeah. Let's hop on in. If you will take it away, Kin, let's get into it.
All right. Today, we're going to be talking about scouting and strategy. Not necessarily your strategy about scouting, but the way that we approach those two things, whether it be in 3v3 or 5v5. The 4 topics we're covering is surprises, mistakes, etc. The biggest ones that we've seen. Another topic or another one of the items is what tools we each use to do our scouting. And then the second one we're doing is once we actually know our opponents, what do we use as the key point for our match strategy? when we're checking out our opponent's history and doing our scouting. And then the first one we'll start talking about right now is prior to GAC lock, before we actually know anything about our opponents, how do we actually scout them? What tools, what do we do for our roster, taking off mods, not taking off mods, whatever. Just an open question. How do we build our strategy prior to knowing our opponents? And Endall, since you're alphabetically first, you want to start?
Sure. So before we get to see the before we lock in, before we get to see our 7 other opponents, typically, the most important thing that you need to get in place is your mods. And depending on the type of session that you're having, 3v3 or 5v5, you want to get your mods accordingly placed. You want to make sure that if there are any Xeraths you want to place in, any characters that you want to level up or gear up or relic up to a certain level, you get all that placed. And in general, if there's any new character which has just been released in the last week or two, you want to make sure that you have counters ready for that. You want to make sure that you have your tricky counters, in the right speed and turn order and all of that. Those are just some general things that I can think of that I do. Nothing specific that I can talk about before I actually see my opponents, but just some general thoughts.
Does anybody else max out their energy refreshes in Arena prior to 3v3?
It depends more. Like that kind of thing happens to me when I'm looking at somebody's roster and I'm trying to figure out what I want to use against stuff. I do have some a little bit of luck where I did a lot of recruiting for my guild, so a fair amount of my actual arena shard is in my guild, so I have a lot of opportunity to try things, which is which is pretty all right.
It's very convenient.
Yeah, so I've got like two of my guildmates have literally everything. They have like 7 mil accounts and they're in my shard. So it's like I can kind of try everything. They get everything right away. It goes up to relic. So I usually have a chance to take a crack at anything I might run into that I know I'm going to need to run into. So it's one of those where I don't just start going after it when they first get it and such, because they're figuring out how to use it, and I don't really know what's going to be tricky and stuff. So I try to kind of work on when I see my opponent going, okay, well, this is some stuff that he could play, and I don't know if I can beat that with this, or what do I need to use, etc. And I'll figure that out a little bit.
Is there anything in particular you do prior to the match in terms of testing, or what's your prior to even knowing your opponents? Do you do a lot of prep, a little prep? How does that work for you?
Prior to knowing my opponent, no, not really. I try to dial in my turn orders, and I think that's the key one. Like I know how the teams I want to use, how I want to play them. So I usually try to just make sure that that's right, make sure all my mods are set and everything is good to go. I generally will drop a bunch of, like if I've been sitting on 6 EMATs, I'll drop like 4 or 5 before a lock in, just to kind of go, okay, well, these are the ones that need a little bit of work, so we'll hit that that kind of thing.
Yeah. Makes sense. GoodOlMaurice, anything you want to add about your procedure?
Well, I mean, just because they're alternating now, 3 and 3 and 5 versus 5, so much has changed in the last month. Like I have some of my old counters that I still have set up, right? But in terms of what I'm gonna do against teams I've never seen, I don't know. So typically what I do is I pick a handful of like facilitators. Some people call them like turn meter pushers. Some people, like Kara removes turn meters. They're just people, just first order officer Thrawn, characters like that just can, especially 3 versus 3, the real plug and play. And if like on the Twitch stream, we've been trying to get my Shock T up about 350. I want Moff Gideon about 350. I want Sith Assassin, pretty high too, because I don't know what to do with Beskar. Like if I face him, I've never fought in 1 and 3 versus 3, so I'm thinking Sith Assassin. There's a combination of Sith there that'll work. So just kind of modding the facilitators. That way I can adapt. And then trying to find what's the best way to say this? I try to find the worst possible characters that I can put with Rey, where you can't use a non-GL, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm going for this time, and we're gonna see. I'm sure something's gonna happen. I'm gonna play some Ray team so weak, somebody's gonna like CLS it or something ridiculous, you know. But it's we're gonna see.
I immediately regret my decision.
Shit.
Have you gotten to the shoving Vandor Chewbacca stage of Ray team building yet?
No, not Vandor to me in threes. I can't ever find a good use for him. Hurts my feelings. I've got a good one. He's relic 4, so
Yeah.
threes I can't use him.
Certain salesman just got me to buy Haya one time. We'll find a use someday.
Smells like Clash again.
Damn you, Clash.
Well, don't worry, guys. He's already relegated himself to the Erodium Advisory, not part of the Kyber Council, so no worries anymore.
This will be the GAC cinematic universe. The advisory is gonna get their Disney Plus soon. We'll get in there.
So how about you, Xaereth? What's your I know you've done some videos on it recently. What's your scouting strategy?
So before I know who any of my opponents are, I typically, I mean, you can't do anything specific, really. Obviously, like you don't know that you have to beat like a Darth Revan that's at 342 speed or whatever. But for me, I typically like target certain specific teams that I have kind of been working on or thinking of, and that like Endall's talking about mods, and that's, I mean, modding is a huge part of it, of course. But certain things are going to work well in general. I mean, you're still going to have to scout to make sure your opponent doesn't have some kind of sneaky thing that, some kind of tech that's going to negate that. But like for instance, I'll be putting a ton of speed on Shock T before GA lock. And, she'll eventually go with my Jedi Knight Luke team in 3v3 because that combination is particularly in 3v3 is really strong because like Vader, he can usually he gets so much bonus speed from everyone in 5v5. It's hard to outpace him in 5v5. So he's like a great counter to Jedi Knight Luke, but in 3v3, he isn't getting all that bonus speed because there's fewer characters for him to get that bonus from. And so you can put an absurdly fast Shock T with Jedi Knight Luke. And if they don't have an absurdly fast Vader, then that in general that's going to work on defense, or at least going to cost them something important. So just picking certain specific targeted teams that are going to work well in general, and then that you can adapt to your use later. That's, for me, that's kind of what I'm doing usually before GA lock.
Yeah, that part is very interesting, actually. The modding and specifically thinking about how your speeds match up in 3s versus 5s because of the multiplicative factor of some of the characters like Rex and Vader, as you mentioned. I've lost a few, usually first or second round matches, forgetting to do the basic math.
Yeah, you're like, wait, Rex should have gone first there. Then you realize that Rex is significantly slower in 3v3.
Yep.
It's almost as if the game was designed for 5v5. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's strange how that works.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just for me personally, in the pre-scout, I feel like we already hit on a lot of good stuff. For me, I tend to lately, just to try to mix things up, just kind of go into each week with, I guess I would say, like a theme or something, and I try to just mod around that. Partially just because I've had really stupid mod luck lately as well, so I was just like, what happens if we make Django and Bosk like 360 speed? I don't know. That's probably not gonna lead to anything, but what if but yeah, especially honestly in 3v3 more than 5v5, it feels like you already kind of know to some degree what your strategy is before you lock in, just because some of the strongest like good 3v3 stuff right now, you kind of like, the modding is so different on that, like the fast gas JML and all that type of stuff is like, if you go that route, those characters become really, really awkward suddenly otherwise. So it's like, yeah, in some ways it's like you're almost kind of pre-committing, but and the end results are crazy strong as well, so it works. If it works, it works.
Indeed. The part, one of the parts too about the especially the GLs in 3v3s, it's very interesting to see a lot of people throw their GLs on defense because they're used to doing that in 5v5s and then realize they have no clue how to beat a lot of teams without GLs and 3v3s. It makes for an interesting first week, I think.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a funny one. So where I'm at, like roster wise, GP wise, it's like everybody that has Ray just sets them with Han and Chewie and just thinks it's going to work, you know. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's a good team. It's a really difficult team, but if someone takes their GL at it, they're going to beat it. You know, it's not an unbeatable team. And it's weird because then it causes this really strange chain reaction where they can't clear you because they just don't have enough teams. Because, you know, like where you guys have a lot of extra teams and stuff, where I'm at, most of my opponents flat out don't have enough teams to set like full G13s and attack with full G13s. So it becomes this really weird thing where I've got a lot of G13 depth. Like they just get stuck somewhere stupid, like somewhere they shouldn't. Like I had a guy that took 7 teams at my, like I had a relic boss class 3v3, but he was only with 2 G11s or something. And that team held 7 times. I was like, how? like he just ran out of stuff. Like a very simple, you know, counter to that would have worked, but that's just where he got stuck. Okay. And like
that's a great actually.
I was going to say, and that's basically all down to the fact that he set Ray with Han and Chewie. I would have taken my slacker at Ray with something else, and it's like he gutted. You know, Han and Chewie by themselves would have cleared that team out. So for me, it's kind of a silly thing that like sometimes people don't realize what they're doing. They just know it's a good team, so they set it and not think about how maybe it could have been used a better way, essentially.
It just somewhere along the way became like the defaults for whatever reason. Sorry, go ahead, Endall.
That's the thing about 3v3. I mean, the individual power of the GLs is so much more amplified because you have so many less options to take on offense. For me, at least, I prefer to keep my GLs on offense to counter other GLs and to mirror if needed. Because if you want to take a non-GL counter against a GL, it ends up breaking so many teams. You'll end up probably using Thrawn, Vader, JKL, Gas. And why would you want to break up 3 teams if you can just take your one meta team and for a clean 52 to 54 banners, and then set those other 3 or 4 teams that you would have taken against your GLs on defense and make your opponent struggle. So I would rather set 11 uniformly tough teams and then keep my GLs on offense than the other way around.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. So it's a really funny one because I think Endall loves playing with a hard defense, like Gom, like Xaereth, myself. We all like playing really good defense from what I understand. But in 3v3, there's a lot more reason to go stronger on offense than you normally would, just from the simple fact is if you can full clear your opponent, then it relies on your opponent being perfect on your defense. And this is something that 3v3 is something that people don't like and aren't good at. Like it's just I like to go through we'll get to that part, but we're going through histories, but like I like to see what they've got and I go, well, it's 3v3. I want to full clear them. Like I know they're going to drop a battle somewhere, so I just need a one-shot full clear. So let's just do that and figure it out from there.
Yeah, and this is actually a perfect intro, and we're sort of talking about our second topic already. Is what are the important things when we're scouting once we actually know our opponents? What do we look for? And you were just saying, Yeti, looking for Han, Chewie along with Ray. Well, they're going to sort of cripple their teams. Gom or GoodOlMaurice. I don't know which one you prefer to be called. What's
Gomlin.
What's your like main things that you're looking for when you're doing the scouting once you know your opponent?
Well, in 3 versus 3, I tend to look at the offensive report far more than I do the defensive. Like let's say that you're up against an opponent that you can see in their history that they really like to use Kylo solo. Maybe they solo Darth Revan with Kylo. Maybe they solo Grievous with Kylo. Like you try to use what they use against them. Like a lot of people use that CLS team versus Fin Poe. So I'm going to stick Fin Poe in the front, along with 2 other teams that need CLS, and then I'll put something behind it that also needs CLS, if that makes any sense. So try to bait out their best offensive teams. So if I can lure out their SLKR maybe with a DR and Grievous in the front, then they don't have Kylo for Ray that's sitting in the back, I guess. What they use offensively is more important to me than what they place, I guess. I've got C now. I didn't have C last 3 versus 3, so that's going to add a interesting mix of. I've seen you guys use them, but I haven't used them, so I'm sure we're going to botch it a time or two, But we'll see. Just like Endo, I like to place 11 solid teams. No gimmies. Like on the podcast last night, I said my best mods go on defense. I typically keep some of my best characters for offense. So
That's a good way to look at it.
yeah, and 3.
Make your
5's a little different.
definitely. Yeah, each character, especially if they're set up correctly turn order wise on defense, is a lot more complicated to take out for sure.
Yeah. It's just to touch on what he was saying. It's like I fully agree with the idea of no gimmies. I think that's something that really gets overlooked. Is like people will just set some crap on their defense somewhere where it's like, well, like this can be soloed or this can be easily countered for 60 banners. Like, don't give me a free 60 banners. I'm gonna take it every day. It's a weird one. Like that's more what I'm thinking. I'm like, I just want them to have hard decisions. My defense is all like, I don't want to have to make hard decisions. I want them to make the hard decisions. So let's just put the pressure on them and let them figure it out and go from there. And I think that's a really big thing that Gom said though, because it really is that way. Just don't give them any gimmies. The half of GIC is not giving your opponent a fucking free ride.
Yeah, definitely. What's your approach, Xaereth? What do you look for?
So Gom is absolutely right. So I like to look at their defenses and everything, but that can change, especially as a streamer. Like that does change. People are like, oh, I'm facing this guy who's I'm gonna be on the internet. Like I'm gonna put some weird stuff down just to see him jump through the hoops. So like that's less useful. What's really useful though is looking at how confident they are on offense and what they think they can accomplish and what they can actually accomplish. Like you can see certain weird habits. Like some people are like, they don't know what to do against General Grievous. And so what do? Like they throw, they go like either the trendy route of like throwing Supreme Leader Kylo to solo him, or, he's like, hey, look at me. I get 63 banners. I'm cool. Screenshotting everyone in the, like I'm so cool. Like I do this all the time. It's pretty cool. But, you have those guys, or they'll throw in General Skywalker, or they'll have some like really random counter that's like really good against General Grievous, and like that. Then you're like, maybe I don't want to place General Grievous. Like maybe I'll put something different because he's too good against that squad. Like kind of like tailoring to what their inclinations are and their habits are. To me, like that's what I like to do. Is just like you can gauge how confident they are on offense and defense and against what squads. And then you don't know exactly what they're going to do, on defense. But in a lot of ways, that doesn't matter. Like as long as you have a plan for being able to clear their front 5, I guess in 3v3, it's their front 7. But like as long as you have a plan to be able to clear whatever they're going to throw on defense, as long as you put kind of like their weaknesses up front or somewhere where you think it's going to kind of disrupt what they're trying to do. That's kind of my goal. Like if they have an over dependence on using Vader to kill Rey, like put clones in there with Rey or something, if you think that's going to shut them down. So then they have to rethink on exactly how they're going to kill Rey, etc.
Yeah, and taking a look at how your opponent has modded their main characters tells you a lot about what they are focusing on for GAC. Like what I like to do is I like to go into their opponent's inventory, filter for speed, or sort by speed, and then take a look at which the fastest characters are, where they're actually putting their focus on mods. And not just speed, but things like tenacity on Malik, for example, or this Ray model for tenacity. That tells you what they're thinking in terms of setting their defense in. And this is probably only true for the first opponent that you face during the week, because if people move their mods around because the view of the mod inventory is live, it might not be the same thing that was locked at the beginning of the week. So it might not be true for all opponents, but that's something which can, in most cases, give a pretty good indication of where your opponent's head is at in terms of modding and characters.
Yeah, I do the speed thing, but the first thing that when I sort by speed tells me is, are they a good player or are they not a good player? Because you can see some just ridiculous choices sometimes. You're just like, why would you do that? Or why is that character so damn slow? Like, what are you trying to do there? And once it's established that they're a good player, then I start really paying attention to where they're putting their mods and such, because it's like, okay, all of these, characters look like they're superbly modded. So now we're in a real fight here. Let's start having a better look at what's going on. And then the funny one is when you see that they've got like some gotcha characters that are just super fast out of nowhere, and why, because you're like, okay, that's gonna screw up this counter or whatever. So yeah, I really like that's one of the big things I do when I first find my opponent, and when I'm putting his numbers in and stuff and start going through his history. The first thing I do is that sort by speed. I'm like, let's just see how competent he is, and then go from there.
Yeah,
So, Maurice, you're saying you have like a 280, 290 speed Mace Windu or something?
No, just if you sort by speed now, my fastest characters are the GLs, and then it's Shakti, Moff Gideon, Queel, and Sith Assassin. So like it's that
Whatever, man.
it's
That's good living.
yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, he's gonna think I'm garbage.
Well, I'll see. I'll tell you what. I would see it and go, Sith Assassin. What's he
No,
gonna do with that?
it's not gonna. There's no way I can keep that. It's way too disruptive for everything else. So
But
Sith Assassin.
that would be a good way to fuck with me though, because I would literally go through your history for like a week. Just like going through everything you've ever done in GAC, trying to see where Sith Assassin needs to be like 360 speed.
Yeah, you're not gonna see too much because I can never actually like I mod her up, but then I can never pull the trigger to actually like use her. I can't, that's my problem with her.
I think that's gonna be a thing. Like next time you stream, it's like everybody's gonna be yelling at you to use Sith Assassin.
I'm just gonna have to pair her with Maul and hope for the best. I can't have that fast of a Sith Assassin. It's not gonna happen.
So, Fatal, what about what's your scouting?
I'm glad Endall hit on the in-game filter or the in-game sort, because that's like probably one of the only real cases where the in-game tools are better than everything we have outside. But yeah, I think the only thing I would really add to what everyone else has said so far is I try to do like a hot utils comparison early on. Like ideally, like if I'm around, like as close to lock as possible. Because yeah, like people said, mods get moved for various things. Especially like honestly, I wouldn't even say remodding. Most people would remod over the course of a week that often, but like tier 2, tier 3 challenges can get some people to like today's like Imp Trooper Day or whatever. Like I don't think people are necessarily remodding for GAC, but it actually happened to me last round. It was just like this dude was showing Kylo missing like an arrow or something, and it was just like, did he actually lock with that? I didn't do the compare in time, so I wasn't sure like if he just happened to remod for like DSTB or something. I don't. Most people would do that, but it suddenly had me in this weird position of like, is he secretly running fast SLK? This was just like some galactic challenge remod or some weird thing that he did, and I'm just gonna get blindsided, assuming that I can do JK or JKL like come offense day, and I'm just screwed. Yeah, I don't know. Really just try to get a snapshot of what they're running close to lock. And even that's not a guarantee, right? Because they could just join 23 hours in advance and then just do whatever with whatever, and you wouldn't know any better. But it's at least the closest that you can get, right?
Yeah.
And scouting is something which you can spend 2-3 hours scouting an opponent, and it's a never-ending thing. You'll always learn something new about them. But there are certain things that you can do in just 5 minutes of looking at just your opponent's, the snapshot in the profile snapshot that can tell you tons about the opponent. I mean, first thing is lifetime banners. You take a look at that. That gives you a big indicator of where they are comparatively placed to you. A second thing you can do is you can go to the stats bar and then take a look at what is the best championship rank that they've achieved. If they're a top 100 player, you know the kind of caliber that you're going up against. Or if they're top 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, accordingly you can you'll know the how seriously they take GAC. If you look at the defensive holds, offensive holds, all of this stuff can be gotten under 5 minutes just by looking at the stats sheet, and that will give you a good indication of whether you're facing a defense focused opponent, offense focused opponent, whether they're really keen on reaching Kyber or they're trying to go for one of the top ranks. It tells you a lot about the opponent just by looking at the info stats.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to intro here into our next topic here is tools. Almost everybody has talked about different tools they use or ways that they track their opponents. So the next question here is, obviously you can just check in game for those stats like Endall mentioned, but what tools do people use? An Excel spreadsheet, Xaereth's amazing Excel spreadsheet that he generously shares with everybody, or something else in the middle? And actually, Xaereth, what do you use besides your own spreadsheet?
So, I mean, in terms of just like bots and stuff, I mean, the Prime bot is super convenient because it'll tell you when your opponent's lifetime banners have increased. And so you can tell if your opponent has deployed. I think for me, that's a huge indicator of what they're doing. Like if they deploy a couple and then they wait for a while and then deploy a couple more, they're doing something. Like they're being very methodical about things. And if you get a message when the attack phase starts that they've suddenly gone up by 830 lifetime, then they just let it roll over from the time before, and they haven't probably done a lot of specific research. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean they haven't. They might have done the research and realized that they could just leave the same thing, or at least thought they could. But for the most part, I mean, I habitually change my defenses every time, and I think a lot of the top level guys tend to switch at least something up every round. Everyone likes to tinker, so having PrimeBot there to be able to just tell me when that happens is nice. Of course, you guys were talking about the Hotbot and the DSR bot, seeing all those stats and everything, and those are nice. Like you can get kind of a snapshot of what your opponent is good at, what his values are. If he has all the Relic 7 and no Zetas or something, I mean, you can tell what kind of things to expect as well. And in a lot of ways, like seeing those numbers, it'll kind of point toward different teams you can start looking at. It'll like help you with your scouting. But otherwise, I'd say one other thing that is super useful, and it's kind of like the spreadsheet you guys mentioned, but like just talking to other people that I trust, like my peers, about a matchup, and I'm just like, so listen, do you think this will work? And they'll tell me hell no, or like, yeah, I think so. A lot of times they just like want to see like the drama of the fail. So they're like, yeah, dude, you should try that.
The life of a streamer. You guys are very lucky.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
I'm gonna mirror that point too. I mean, the PrimeBot I think I was a super early adopter of that, and it's my method of setting defense was always I check out everything. I go through some history. I'll go take like an hour or so and sit and just bang through like their last 2 months of their GAC history and see just sort of what kind of a player they are. And then I sleep on it, wake up the next day and set defense. But it's really funny is like when I started using PrimeBot, I noticed I started setting my defense after while I'm doing my fleet payout, which is an hour before GAC locks. And one of the things that kind of just without me thinking about it was because I knew when they set their defense and I knew how fast they set their defense, I knew what kind of defense I was facing, so I could adjust based on that. And it wasn't something I was consciously doing. It was just like, I'd go and, okay, well, I'm about to get paid out on fleets. We should set defense before we forget. Looking here. All right. So they haven't yet. I think they're rolling it from next round. So I can just kind of expect them to not really have any idea of what I'm going to do, which is going to be fun. So here we go. Or like they set it really, really fast right at the beginning. It's like, all right, well, they just banged it out. They probably just set something similar to what they always do. Or they'll look at my account and go, well, it has slacker. So we're going to set this and we're going to take this on offense to deal with that. And that's it. We're good. Okay. We can forget about it till tomorrow. That kind of thing. And it's like, I think that PrimeBot is really bloody excellent. It did add this little dimension that I like I said, it just wasn't even conscious. It was just something I just started utilizing, that little edge, I guess, or at least mentally, I felt like it was an edge or something. It was just, and it wasn't something that I was just like, okay, well, I have to wait to see, if when they set their defense, it'd just be like, blah, 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 oh, they haven't set their defense yet. All right, so we're probably getting a rollover, that kind of thing.
Oh man, I'll say this. Like with Endall and Klesso, especially, like once they started using that Prime bot, they make me so nervous. They're like, guys, my guy hasn't deployed yet, so I'm waiting. I'm not gonna deploy either. And they play this like deployment chicken, and I'm like, I can't do that. I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't have the balls.
the Prime bot is a lifesaver. I mean, I just got introduced to it by Xaereth a couple of months ago, and it tells me so much about when my opponent is moving, what I should be doing. I mean, it's sometimes it's so useful just to get a notification that your opponent has gone, just so that you can go in and see their battles live, and see how many what kind of battles they're taking in and what kind of teams they're struggling on. It's a lifesaver, definitely. But I would
It's
say
fun.
apart.
I was gonna say it's
Yep, go
fun to
ahead.
get that notification, and you open up and you're just watching them attack. It's like
Yeah,
fail,
exactly.
fail,
That
fail.
pleasure of the live attack is
60.
something that it beats. Like before, I would just go in and then the opponent has already cleared my board or cleared half the board, and I never really got to see him attack live. The Prime bot actually allows me to do that, to jump in and do that.
And that's just that's one of the most exciting things. Like we had it on my ghetto stream recently where I fired up the stream to start moving, and the guy started attacking right as I was like starting to talk defense. So I opened up my defense. I'm like, this is what I set. This is why I'm setting it. All of a sudden he's attacking. I'm like, oh, it's happening, guys. It's happening.
I would add there's just one other tool that I recently started using just a couple of weeks ago. So almost all of us over here are aware of swgoh.gg and GAC history and all of that. One of my viewers is a wizard at Excel, is a guy appropriately named Dr. Pivot. So he reached out to me and sent me an Excel sheet which scrapes the data directly from swgoh.gg, GAC data. And all you have to do is, you have to enter the ally code in there. So you enter your opponent's ally code, you enter your own ally code, give, the starting GAC date and ending GAC date, like 43 to 45, for example, and then press a button. And within 5 seconds, you have the full GAC history in a single spreadsheet. And
Good
you can
God.
go in, and it's the same data that you see in the browser, but to see everything laid out in an Excel sheet, to be able to filter it at will, to be able to select the leader and see how many times your opponent has failed against one particular leader or one particular team, what team composition they usually like to take in for Grievous, for example, to see everything in one snapshot. Nowadays, I can do what used to take me like an hour or two, I can do in 10 to 15 minutes, and I get way better insight than before. So that's something which I've been really excited about lately. Just last couple of weeks, I've been using this tool.
Let me get that
is
spreadsheet.
Awesome.
Yeah, I saw that
definitely
in your
that.
video, Endall, and I got a little aroused, I have to say.
It's like Stardate.
It's pretty neat. I'm still playing with the views because I've just created 2 or 3 views, but there's so many other views that you can create. I mean, you can take a look at a loss report, for example. You can take a look at the kind of teams that your opponent usually loses to. You can compare the average banners that your opponent usually gets against certain teams or not. So those kind of insights are way better to get from the spreadsheet than from the SWGOH site, which is extremely cumbersome and clumsy.
I envision a lot of Discord user searches for Mr. Pivot going on right about now.
It's like, so I hear you have a
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
Yeah,
How about you?
I'll go ahead and tweak the views and all, and then I'll probably share it out with the group so that you guys can take a look at it. But it's pretty neat what you can do with it.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Gom, how about you? What is your tools? What tools do you use? Obviously, some sort of spreadsheet.
No, mine's pretty simple. I run like the quick compare just to get a quick glance of mods. Basically, it's just for mods, and I think it was Endall. You can kind of compare lifetimes. Undersized defends. Yeah, you get a lot of data just from, and like he said, just from the card in game. Like I usually do a quick compare. I'll use .gg. If they put a team I'm not really familiar on, I'll just either use like somebody like Xaereth's sheet or even just the GAC meta counters page within .gg. Like if you're completely clueless on how to beat a team, that's a good start, at least to get the framework of what you need. Obviously you need to mod it and stuff, but That's really about it. I utilize the end game charts a lot. Like how much offense does this character have? How much speed? Let's sort by bounty hunters. What order are his bounty hunters going to go in? How fast is his spirit modded for speed or offense? So that makes a huge difference. Like just characters that can be modded like type A or type B. It's nice to be prepared for the proper Night Sister spirit. Like if they got a really tanky, bringing the pain Night Sister spirit, I need to bring a tank. Like I can't just go in there with a bunch of attackers. So things like that. Yeah, pretty boring.
No, that works. I use a spreadsheet. That's one that was I saw on Reddit, I think like a year and a half ago, GAC Manager. It's sort of similar. It pulls a bunch of stuff from using the GG APIs, but it's more goes over all of you specify, you choose all the characters you want to look at, and then it pulls them for all of your opponents. So I just run it directly after the round starts. So I get it for all 8 or 7 plus myself of the opponents. It's a convenient way to look at exactly those stats without having to go in game.
I like that thing. I like it that it tells you your risk level.
Yeah. Risk level is it's like basically you can see which of your opponents have not invested in their mods or not.
Right.
Yeah, that's sort of. I don't use a spreadsheet or anything for it, but I always, with last month it was a little bit washy, but I almost always go and check out everybody in my bracket right away, like right as soon as lock hits. So like where Fatal was talking about, basically going in and checking, the DSR bot for his opponent right away. I usually just go like right when the bracket opens and go look at everybody, make sure like I kind of see what they have at lock, what characters are there. Cause I mean, I've seen people drop crazy hordes after lock. And so like, and then it turned out they didn't have half of that stuff. Like I'm like, how are they matched up with me? They have like 200,000 more top 80 than I have. Like, what the bloody hell's going on? And you don't know what they've got. And you're just like, well, I mean, they could have this or they could have, I don't know. Like, yeah. So it's a weird one. So I always try to do that just because I got caught out by it once where I was completely clueless. And so I kind of was like, all right, well, I'll just go blind and see what I can see in his history and expect those teams, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think doing it at lock is one of the most important things, at least for me, because I had a similar experience. I think a month or 2 after GAC started for the first time, where everybody was doing stuff after GAC had started. So you would look at their inventory and be totally different.
Yeah.
Fatal, how about you? What's your approach from a tools perspective?
I basically just follow a rigid order of like I will just kind of like glance over the hot utils compare. Doesn't really do much anymore. I kind of cooled off on it. Even like it's super convenient. It's super nice to have, but it's just like yeah, okay, they have like 1 mil more GP, whatever. Our mods are kind of the same, whatever. Zetas are probably more than me, whatever. It really is like almost all of my process just happens in I go to swgoyeti.gg, check their defense for anything weird, look at their offense for any mistakes they're making, and then comb through their speed. And if I don't have anything conclusive by then I'm probably just defaulting back to whatever theme that I had that week. And just trying to like set up at least one decent bait down bottom of just like, okay, he's gonna do like Kylo versus Grievous. Honestly, that feels so flimsy though, because like Grievous can be moved by a lot of teams, so it's like that feels a little bit fishy. That feels like you see that and it's like that's a little bit too obvious. But yeah, I mean that's my usual process is just hit on what mistakes they might be making and try not to interrupt them when they're making that mistake. Try to feed them what they seem happy to take, even if it's like they're spending a Kylo full for starter team for like 46 banners. I'm just like, have at it, man. Here's my Ray. I've deliberately posted worse Ray teams just to be like, man, this is such a good team for you to Kylo right now. You should do that. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah, they like to use Jawas. I'm like, yeah, I'll put my Jawas right up front.
Oh no, please. Anything.
Enjoy
but the
your
Jaws.
46 here.
The efficiency is just killing me.
Well, this is a good topic to go into our last topic, or a good conversation to go into our last topic. Yeti, if you want to start, it's basically what's the biggest, I don't know, surprise, disappointment, lesson, whatever, that happened during scouting versus reality? What really stuck with you?
Yeah, the one that happened to me that knocked my big streak for a loop, right? So the biggest streak I've ever had was 27. So this time I got to the 27th fight and I lost, and I was like, God, like come on. And it was the guy had he didn't have a slacker cheese counter modded well. He's done it in his history, but he always failed, and it was just like it was never close. It was one of those. So I was like, there's no way he's going to do this. And so I set my Darth Revan and Malik at the bottom back instead of in the top next to Gas and Slacker, because that was specifically built like I like setting Slacker next to General Skywalker with the clones, because it's going to require he's going to mirror it or he's going to try to CLS it. Either way, he can't Slacker cheese my Slacker, so it becomes like a question of how does he get through the top. And it was an interesting one because I was talking to the guy, like he messaged me and he's like, looks like I'm just going to have to go for broke on the top. And I'm sitting there going like, okay, so he's going to try the Slacker cheese. It's never worked for him. And he worked the first time. I was like, you motherfucker. I was like, there it goes. And then he managed to whittle down my General Skywalker. And then that was it. He took the top, and that was game, set, and match. And it was a weird one because in the back, he dropped a battle on one of the teams in the back, and he couldn't get through my Darth Revan. It was one of those. It was like if I set Darth Revan up top, it would have been a win for me just based on efficiency on the bottom. And it was one of those where I was just sitting there going like, okay, yeah, I tried to be cute. I was like, I'm going to hold him in 2 zones. I'm going to let him only take the bottom front, and that's going to be a nice big juicy win, that kind of thing. And then afterwards, I was just like, yep, that was dumb. I should have just like gone for the the triple redundancy up at the top, and I just didn't, and there it is.
Yeah, the trying to be cute ones are annoying. I think the only time I missed Kyber, besides going for some titles, was when I tried to be cute for a feat. That was very, very painful.
Oh.
Endall, what's your biggest lesson? What's your biggest takeaway? Whatever.
Well, a lot of times when people know that I'm a streamer, they like to keep these really weird surprises at the back. So there's at least one guy I know who's kept the exact same teams up front that I would expect to see on scouting, and then at the back he kept a GL when usually he doesn't. So that took me a little bit off guard because everything else about his defense was extremely predictive, but I ended up, not saving my GL counter for the back. Still ended up clearing him, but with a lot of difficulty, and he ended up not clearing me at all, which was good to see. But a few surprises like that I've had in the past, just because people like to set different teams when they see who they're going up against, and they like to break the pattern at times, and there's nothing much you can do about it except adapt.
Makes sense. Those GLs in the back when they never set them are very annoying.
Yeah.
Gom, what's your biggest takeaway lesson?
I have lots of oopsies. A lot of times I put such a heavy defense that I leave myself one option for teams, right? And like if they do decide to split up their defense and do something a little different, I do kind of handcuff myself at times. And plus I learned the very last Grand Arena. I was going for 12-0, and the entire match was going to be determined by a coin flip. My Rex was the same speed as their DR, and I lost the coin flip. Very first match. Like, hey guys, come out, watch us. Watch me try to go 12-0. Go for 12-0. Yeah, let's get it. Got a great opponent. He was a great opponent, and he kicked my ass. I lost that coin flip. I lost the whole match because of that coin flip. Now I'm going to try this time, make a very conscious effort not to gamble as much. Like, especially in threes, like if I gamble on a GL and lose, I'm gonna have a real hell of a time trying to clean up a leftover Ray or like a single Kylo. You don't have too many tricks in the bag with 3 characters to take out a GL. So it's I'll have Poggle. That's really the only trick I have. Poggle and Spy. So it's I got to play the odds a little better, I guess. It's not a roulette table. It's especially now I'm in this competing with you guys for bragging rights and stuff. You know, it's gonna be just so gotta step my game up.
Pride, that's the biggest reward.
Yeah.
How about you, Xaereth? What's your biggest lesson learned or surprise?
I mean, I did mention earlier, I guess, that when people know they're facing me, like all bets are off. Like they just change their defenses entirely. So I kind of stopped expecting anything. I think the biggest one actually, there was a few seasons of 3v3 ago where I scouted this guy and he like my whole thing was like, okay, well, I don't think he's gonna be able to get through my Darth Revan up top because my Darth Revan's faster, and like he's not gonna be able to beat me. And that's all he ever used was his Darth Revan to beat other people's Darth Revan. So I was scouting, I was like, man, looking at all his 3v3 stuff, never beats Darth Revan with anything other than Darth Revan. And so I even like checked. I even looked up some of his opponents, a lot of them actually, to see what their Darth Revan speed was, and they were all significantly slower than mine. And so I was like, man, okay, I think I'm good. You know, I'll set him there, and then all I need him to do is like fail 1 or 2 times, and I think I'll be good to go. And what ended up happening was he cleared me super efficiently, and I was like, what just happened? And I was talking to him later, and he was like, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but he deliberately like changes his Darth Revan speed after lock that you can't scout it. And so he had his Darth Revan is like 10 faster than mine, and I have a fast Darth Revan, but when I scouted him, it was way slower, and I was like, I had no worries about being able to clear him. So I was pretty sneaky, but he was able to clear me in 3v3 because my whole plan had been revolving around him struggling on my Revan, and it clearly didn't pan out. So just keep in mind, like if you scout someone, not only could they just like deliberately do it like that guy, but they might also, like, territory battles is going on. People are swapping mods, like all territory battles, territory wars. People change their mods because specific things that their guilds ask them to change them to. Like, just looking at their mods can sometimes be indicative of what they're doing, but that's not, you can't rely on it too much. You could get burned.
That is pretty tricky. Yeah, tough to always, or important to check, I guess. I don't check a lot of times right before the fight because I've scouted them before, so I know their speeds.
I was like, I'm not even mad. That was amazing. it was actually the execution of that, like, it just folded me up so neatly. I admire that, even as I hate him. So
That's the thing. I always love using the Padme. I'm just so comfortable with Padme on Darth Revan that it's just like, all right, cool. We got a Darth Revan to take out. Sweet.
Yeah, a little more complicated than 3s though. Well,
yeah,
Malik there at least.
I still use Padme on 3s. It's not a guaranteed one shot, but it was like I was talking with Xaereth, I think last 3v3, it's a guaranteed 2-shot. Because you're absolutely 100%, if you have your mods right, you're going to take it down to just Malik, and killing just Malik by himself isn't too bad. So there's a lot of ways to do that. And so I usually take that approach and then still set my Darth Revan, because you know what, they got to do something to figure out mine, and that's where I'll win it, because 2-shotting in Darth Revan is not the biggest thing if I 1-shot the rest of the board. So like that's sort of my strategy on Darth Revan with 3v3.
You could also use Fatal's strategy that the whole Thrawn lead one is pretty clever. But yeah, 2-shotting I think is very common for a lot of Darth Revan teams.
Yeah, I just don't have the L337 for the.
It doesn't actually have to be L3. That video is actually going to get a huge update, by the way. That was actually probably the one failed video launch I've had so far where there was a lot of stuff I left unsaid and should not have. Yeah, people, Ian has used Crew. I know a lot of people have used Shore. It's basically just like any tank that can take enough of a beating that Thrawn isn't going to get death mark, and you're cruising.
That could work.
I'm not going to turn this into the video. We'll get there. But yeah, it does work. Apologies to people who maybe, didn't end up getting the 1-shot on DR. the one thing I said in the video I will say here is you can just choke on Malik. If you're Vader, if you're like on the fence, if it's like a R7 Darth Revan or whatever, and you're just like, I don't know if we get this one shot, you could just choke Malik before. There's no real reason why you can't, right? It's just the only reason why I didn't do it in the video is because you get the second call faster for Bastila, but like you got a tank, you're chilling, right? Like Bastila is just gonna like drop a shock on them or whatever. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
No, okay, that was actually one of my losses last 3v3. That was probably the biggest mistake I made. Is I neglected to look at my opponent. Abattoir had a faster Malik than his DR, and I went in there with Thrawn and Vader and a pre-taunt, kind of expecting to take DR out, and it was my mistake. I didn't look. It didn't cost me the match. I think I would have lost anyway, but still, going in there having that one counter that is my only option really threw me for a loop. I had to use something else. I lost. I got destroyed that match just because I simply forgot to look at the speeds on a Sith. So you really need to go through the major factions. I think in game, just sort by speed, just so you can get a quick glance. Because if I would have done that, I would have completely changed my offensive strategy for that match.
I do that with the DSR bot. I've set it up to show specific characters that I want to check, so that way, like when I do that quick look, I can see those kind of problem characters.
Yeah,
Like
I wish that option was in the compare bot, or at least the access I have. I wish that I could do that. I'll have to check that bot out.
You can do a custom setup with all the different characters that you want on the DSR bot, which is really fantastic. So I change it up quite a bit. Like at the moment, I have it with showing all the GLs, but it's like that doesn't make sense. I don't really need to see that because they're going to be at the top of his roster. He can't fucking hide them. They're going to be fast. It's whatever, right? Like. But having the ability to just go, okay, here's his Bastila speed, here's Darth Revan speed, here's his Malik speed, and it's all right there. Here's his Traya speed. No, he's not gonna be able to use that in a counter, etc. Blah 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 blah. You start doing it that way, and you go, okay, well, these are the problem characters that I needed to know what there are, and they're all listed right here. Saves me a little bit of combing through his roster a bit.
Yeah,
Definitely helpful. Fail. What's your biggest takeaway, biggest lesson? Or fail.
Y'all ever lean too hard into a slugfest? Like the whole Charlie Brown Lucy thing with the football, where you're like going in to go for the kick and then she just yanks the football away. Anytime that I see I'm fighting someone who loves to go harder in defense, I'm like right there with them. And this is like, like if they're changing up the defense plans and whatever, but no, this is like you're fighting someone who's like every single time, every single week is like they're going hard. And so I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do this, I'm down. And then you clear their front wall, and like you do it with like some less efficient stuff to keep stronger people for more teams in rear, and then it's just like it's not even geos, right? It's like you see like a wedge pop up on your screen, and you're just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I was undefeated for like straight up ever since like Grand Arena was introduced, and then it turned to GAC for a while. That was how I took my first big L. Yeah, sucked. Honestly, I don't even know like how you're supposed to play. I mean, you play around it by not overcommitting, but yeah, it's tricky to be like, all right, this guy might either have posted everything, or also this is an efficiency game, and now you have to walk that tightrope. I mean, if you're consistently hard posting, that actually feels like a really, really powerful tool that you can sit on.
I actually do that. I've done that to a couple of people who set really hard defenses and have like really good lifetime banners and stuff. Like I know they're checking, I know they're looking at my mods, I know they're doing that kind of stuff. Where in my GAC history, I have these really hard defenses over and over and over and over again, and then it's like I let them kind of screw up at the front bottom, and then they figure out it's an efficiency battle, but it's too late because they've dropped too many banners, and it's just like, okay, here we go. And you get that nice kind of efficient clear there. And it even works if you go first, because they're like, oh God, this guy sets a really hard defense and he's one shot my board. Oh my God. Like, and he did it pretty efficiently. Like, what am I going to do here? Like, I got to make sure I keep some major stuff for the back. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, he's got like some like G12 scoundrels back here.
The psychological game is a fun one when you're matched up with opponents that you can actually play that with, which are sort of rare.
It's hard to know if they're actually going to do their scouting or not.
You can just message them and ask them. Please look at me.
Yeah.
Hey, do you scout? Have you scouted me yet?
Like, look at me. Look
Do
at
you
me,
like what you see?
Yeah,
But-
it's an interesting one, but you can reach out and be like, hey, I'm really excited for our matchup. You look like a good player, so set me a good defense and let's go to town. And usually when you reach out to somebody, they kind of give you their A game.
I don't know, man. So many people just decline the chat invite. It's very dissatisfying.
Yeah, that I used to do sort of like some of the other I used to message every opponent that I had like before. I'd be like, hey, I'll have a recording of my attacks and stuff. You want to see it and all that stuff, and it was declined most of the time. Like 80% of the time, it was like no, and then like of the 20% that got accepted, probably 50% of those no one ever responded, and then like the rest of them were all really cool. They're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, are you going to be doing it live? Yeah. Okay. Well, let me attack first, and then I'll come and hang out and chat, that kind of thing. And so that was cool. But it's rare when it happens. So now I almost I wait unless it's a really good opponent. Sometimes I'll reach out, or sometimes I'll just obviously not bother because I don't care to get declined or whatever for the message. But yeah, you do get some cool stuff from reaching out sometimes. So
It's nice.
Yeah, you get the guy that only accepts the invite when he knows he's beaten you. Then he'll finally accept in the chat. Good game, my friend. Yeah, okay, whatever. It's just like, okay, well, I know you've been in the game. Like, I've seen you attack.
yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks for answering me.
Yeah, they're like, you tried so hard.
Maybe next time. Oh, God, you
Talking thing, yeah.
Damn you,
Oh,
filthy
dear.
apes.
Or that one guy who just typed in LOL and then left the chat.
Nice. I've never understood why people decline. Like, why not get a little more information, even if you have no intention of talking to them? Like, why not just hit accept, read what they say, and then leave? It doesn't make sense to me that they would, that they just decline. Like, I guess maybe they're afraid that you're going to make fun of them or something if you've already cleared them. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be a part of it. I think sometimes it's also there's there might be some language barrier, or the person's just like, well, I don't want to fucking talk to you, so something like that.
It's true. All right.
Well, that's all the questions I've got, Fatal. If we want to go into any Q&A that we might have.
Yeah, we got a couple. All right, we have Dan B in the chat. I think this is going to be a very good question because I think a lot of people are either have him or are grabbing him soon, and it's also 3v3. What are you planning to use with Beskar Mando in 3v3? Because those whistling birds count up a little bit different when there's less people on the field now. That's yeah, that's a weird character to plan around. I've tried to do it and I've come up with nothing so far. Except for like a Han and Chewie lead.
Skendall.
Yeah, Beskar is a tricky one in 3v3 just because you have you don't get tons of those bonuses that you can get with 5 characters on the team, and B, you don't stack up to whistling birds fast enough in a 3v3 situation because you don't have enough opponents and you don't have enough allies to stack that up. So what I'm planning to do, at least on 3v3, is I'm planning to keep IG-11 and Quill separate from Beskar because I think those two guys will be great with any other good damage dealing scoundrel. And with Beskar, I'm going to use Nest and Moff Gideon. And Moff Gideon, because since you don't have Quill to speed up your characters, a fast Moff Gideon will allow your own Beskar Mando to get into position with Whistling Birds early and give offense up to both Beskar Mando and Nest because both are attackers. So at least that way, the Whistling Birds, whatever few stacks of Whistling Birds you have, end up doing a little more damage, about 50% more damage than they would have with any other scoundrel team. So that's going to be my plan. Nest and Moff Gideon. And even if I don't use Moff Gideon, even if I use a third scoundrel, I think Nest is always going to go with my Beskar Mando. I think those two are really have good synergy together.
I'm just waiting for the Rey Beskar Mando L3 team to be seen on defense because That doesn't sound too fun.
Or Ray, IG-11 and Quill.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one's really nasty. That's like potential timeout stuff because it's just hard to wear through those characters together.
Yeah.
I had a bad experience using my Supreme Leader against Ray with Quill and IG and Han and Chewie in the arena. And let's put it this way: I lost because I just couldn't keep up with everything that was going on, but I almost timed out. So it was one of those. I was like, it was going bad either way. Like it was like 4 minutes 40 seconds where Ray's ult finally got me, and I was just like, that team is dumb. Like that is just so stupid. It's like I just kept waiting for Slacker to kill everything, and he just didn't.
I'm not looking forward.
Xaereth, you've got a Beskar Mand, right? What are your plans for it?
I'm gonna copy what you do, and I'll.
It's usually a pretty good strategy.
I mean, so you talk about scouting and preparing and everything, and that's a huge part of it too. I mean, you're not scouting your opponent specifically, but like watching other good players play and do these things. Like even if you don't have the same roster as them and don't have the same tools, or you don't have the right mods at the moment, like yeah, you get ideas at least. You can kind of turn it into something that might work. Try to adapt it to your own designs. And Endall's one of the best guys to watch for that kind of thing because he's always coming up with some random BS thing that it's only BS because I haven't thought of it before. Right? And Beskar Mando, he can be tricky. Like 3v3, he's going to be relevant. I don't know in what way yet, though. It's very hard to predict. There are certain things.
Yeah.
I'll probably end up trying him with Queel and IG-11
yeah.
first. I mean that's like the boring answer, right? Like that's like the starting point of Theorycraft, though. Like you start with the obvious and then see what works, what doesn't, and just kind of incrementally shift and try to work around the weaknesses and see what kind of teams you're going to make. So, I mean, I'll be boring.
I have
but
a feeling in 3v3, I have a feeling that Mando's, the unique ability is probably going to be more important than the whistling birds. That's the ability which allows him
Yeah.
to give
The
damage
damage
immunity.
immunity, yeah.
That one I think is giving 2/3 of your team damage immunity against a tough opponent for a turn or two. That actually is pretty a good thing to have. So I think that is probably going to end up being more valuable than the whistling birds, which will do less damage.
Well, especially in 3v3, right? Because there's less characters, so if you protect your three pretty well, I mean that's a nasty thing to go over, especially against the AI if you're taking them on offense, because AI is probably going to keep banging on whatever, especially if you're giving the damage immunity to like a taunting tank or something like that. Then I mean that could be a really strong, just as a throw into another team, right?
Yeah, he's a very flex character, I think, in 3v3s. Not as a leader necessarily either.
I was actually just doing the math in my head. Beskar Mando Han Chewie actually sounds kind of alright. Like Chewie assists doing 2 stacks, so like let's say you clock Beskar Mando ahead of Hana and Chewie, right? And like you've got the lead, so it's giving everyone 8% turn meter. So you're kind of ahead in some matchups. I probably wouldn't post it on defense. So you start recording. You have Han snapshot plus Chewie assist, that's 3. Then you have Han basic plus Chewie assist, that's 7. And then Chewie AoE gets you 6 on top of that, so you're 13 plus the 3 base that he'll get. That puts you at 16 birds. That's actually like fairly close.
And if you can get your Beskar Mando to 275, 8% turn meter means he'll be almost at about 300 speed effectively.
Like that actually could line up
a fair amount. Yeah, that's It's like I do believe we have a team that dances here.
But I guess the question I would ask could be, what does it kill that like Han, Chewie, and like Wedge lead don't beat for the same banners? Like what extra teams?
Wedge, Han, and Chewie was like my Fin Po killer team. So
I'm using a Stormtrooper Han with Han and Chewie for that.
Yeah, true.
Right? Like, so Han, Chewie, and a rebel leader or a scoundrel leader can beat, Fin Poe, and under that, like, that's Beskar isn't absolutely necessary for it. Like, yeah, I totally do agree that that would work. I'm just wondering what
does it kill?
using
Yeah.
Beskar with them is going to add to that team as
Well,
well.
the problem with Beskar on defense is it will be too easy to manipulate. Like you can get IG-11 down. I guarantee if you use Fin Poe against that team, you can get IG-11 down below 75% before they take a turn. So he's gonna utilize that Zeta and do the damage immunity and never even pop the whistling birds. Like you can kind of trick him into just continually wasting his turns to never get the whistling birds. Like with only one taunting tank, it's not like fives. Like fives, if you want to use L3 and 11, you got that annoying double taunt. You can't target Beskar, but you can just continue to delay the whistling birds and just essentially wipe the whole team out in one turn.
I mean, if you see the Beskar Mando IG-11 Quill team, I have a feeling that a pure Sith trio team with Treya lead is going to work pretty
I think
much
so
okay.
too. Yeah.
You isolate isolate Quill, IG-11, and then because these guys get buffs out of turn, that offense is going to be lower as well. So whistling birds are going to do even lower damage, and damage unity is not going to do anything against Annihilate. So I think Sith trio is perfectly okay against that.
That was actually my plan. If I came up against Beskar with IG and Quill, I was going to be using Sith Trio on that. I was like, I just usually that's kind of like if there's something new and I don't know what to do against it, Sith Trio tend to do the job. So
yeah.
Any
All right.
other?
Anyone else?
Go ahead.
All right. We have a pretty juicy question, I would say, from Free88, who says, if there was only one single piece of data you could know about your opponent before the match, or I assume before matching against them, what would you choose? And he has a house rule that number of GLs is the easy answer, so let's exclude that.
plus 20 mods, the speed mods.
Okay.
If they
I would go
sucked
with
or
lifetime
not.
banners. I would just go with lifetime banners. Tells me how serious they are about GAC.
If I missed a couple of GAC join weeks, is that just like ultimate camouflage for me? Just
I was gonna say I went trapped in carbonite the December before last, just because I was out of town and I was like, you know what, it's 3v3 and I had a lot of shit going on. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do it, and so I got trapped in carbonite. So that's kept my my lifetime banners down by what 50,000 or something. But then I wasn't even thinking about top rank, and then I think it was Endall brought up the ranks, and I'm like, yeah, if they see I'm like, just finishing in the top 200 of Division 1 in Kyber, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's probably like yeah. But yeah, so I think lifetime banners doesn't tell the whole story, because they could easily be a player that was casual and then decided that they really like GAC, and maybe they've got super low banners now, but they're a great player with great mods, great account. They just didn't try.
It was actually I thought very similarly to Endall here for lifetime, but the thing I would look at before that even is their best finish, like seeing how highly they've ranked in the past, because every once in a while they will surprise you. They're like, yeah, I just hate 3v3, so I never place high in it, but 5v5 I got top 10 once, and you're like, wow, like holy balls, that was that's scary. Like you have really bad lifetime banners, and I've already judged you, but being able to see like, wow, they've actually done, like, they've had a few seasons, it looks like, where they've been undefeated probably, and that changes your expectations of the match pretty dramatically.
Yeah, I wish there was a way to see when their top placing position was, whether it's 3v3 or 5v5, because I think there's a number of people that are in exactly that boat that just don't do 3v3, so their banners are always going to be quite a bit lower.
Right, and that's totally fair. I think another thing that is kind of overlooked, one thing that I use in scouting, we haven't really discussed it much, has been like looking at what guild they're in. If they're in one of the top like guilds, they're gonna know all the counters, or they'll have access to learn how to do it at the very least. Like it's gonna change kind of the landscape of your match. If they're not in a top flight guild, then you might be able to expect them to use a more basic counter on something. So looking at their guild is probably another thing I would want, another piece of data I'd be interested in.
It's also just something that I kind of forgot that I do just because I do it like passively, but it's like the first thing I do is like the moment that GAT matches, I just kind of like go through the list and click each name and just like look at the top right for the guild name and just like, all right, how spicy is this week looking so far? Yeah, definitely agree there. All right, one last question. I think we'll get out of here. Fairly quick one for Q&A. I guess he was planning to stream snipe us. What's your plan for Darth Revan trio on defense in this 3v3? I think we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. But yeah. What's your guys' plans?
Yeah, I'm planning on using the Thrawn lead probably, and I'll have 1 or 2 people in my group who will put Malak 1 faster. And for them, I'll probably use a GL, to be honest.
It's
Yeah,
all
I mean,
about-
I'm saving all my GLs on offense. So if I can spare a GL, I'm gonna, solo the Darth Revan team with the GL and get 55, 56 banners. But if not, then I plan to probably double shot it with Padme followed up with the First Order team.
Yeah, that's
up
my
Malak.
move right there. The
Yeah.
Padme then with First Order in reserve, or with like bounty hunters with Mando in reserve, something like that.
Yeah.
I plan on using General Skywalker and then raging at my terrible art. Highly
There's the
entertaining.
other option, which is the Jedi Knight Luke and a really fast Shark T with a pre-taunter. That's probably the other thing that you can do.
I've seen that.
Thanks,
I've seen that
Baze.
fail. How consistent is that?
I haven't personally used it, but I know that Solo and Xaereth have, and they can vouch for it.
It always feels like it's gonna fail. I'm always sure it's gonna fail. And for me, watching Solo do it, especially, I always put like some twist on it and then use a slightly different team than I should, and it is mixed results. It's not consistent for me, but that's mostly from me tinkering with it. Like Solo usually beats it, but he also gets bad banners with it. So I don't know. It does work though. That is absolutely an option. I just like Jedi Luke on defense so much in threes. If they don't have a fast enough Vader, I guess.
Yeah. I actually, on the topic of Jedi Knight Luke lead as well, one of the only teams that one-shot my Darth Revan that had fast Malak in front of it was actually the Luke with Shock T and also a Pocket Hermit Yoda as well. And I want to say he actually had like everyone still left alive as well, or it might have just been Luke plus Hermit, but yeah. I honestly, that actually just might be a good 3v3 blinding tool. Is just like because I ran that team the whole time last season, just go look at my match history and like who succeeded, if anyone, and also what did they do, how did they do. Yeah, I think JKL Shock just sounds like a really good core for anti-DR. Dan says JKL Shock and GK has always worked. Interesting.
GK, interesting.
How fast was the Shock in his team?
I do not remember, but I can tell you that I've had like 352 Malak and 351 Revan, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah.
So. Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been quite fast. It's like I have a decent set on Shock T, but I haven't gone like completely nutso on her. I think she's only got a 120 to 130 set or something like that.
Her base always catches me by surprise. I'm like, man, I'm giving
Yeah.
you like the dumbest like 13 and 14 speeds, whatever. You're just like an afterthought, and then she still shows up with like 310.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what? That was sort of like my Hawk Rebel Scout. I juiced him up. I managed to get a plus 20. That was a crit chance one, and I wanted to get a high crit chance on Hawk Rebel Scout, so he gets the crit right off the bat and gives himself 100% turn meter. And all of a sudden, I was like, this speed set has suddenly turned very, very fast, and that catches people out if they don't use Vader there because he's fast.
Yeah. All right.
It frees my actually. Go ahead.
No. You finish, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. Like so, I typically shoot for like in threes. You want a pretty fast set, like really fast on her if you can. Like making her like 340 something is probably usually my target. Like I know that Gom was all goes all nuts. I think he was talking about like a 350 plus speed shock. So that's it's intimidating.
Well,
The
it's
shock
all
needs to be
relative to your
faster than
GP, yeah.
Sith Assassin.
Well, you gotta have Shock T faster than DR. Obviously, you gotta have Shock T faster than Thrawn plus what's his face Tarkin lead. Like there's a lot of scenarios you have to prepare yourself for because Tarkin Thrawn. If that gets your Vader out first and your Thrawn out first, you're still gonna dust that Luke team. They're never gonna take a turn. So you gotta be weary of kind of tricky little Empire tricks. I mean, maybe I don't know. I'm not going to go as far as say maybe a Darth Maul lead, but we'll, you just got to be because I mean, especially if you're investing so many mods on because I'm gonna run them with Cam too, so that's 3 pretty strong characters all in one team. I don't want to overlook something silly. They just go in there and allow them to use very B minus. I mean, Vader, of course, but then the leftovers to take out like Tarkin to take out one of my best teams. I don't want that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
Call.
We're a little bit over time, but it's close enough. I think we're good. All right. Yeah. I want to thank you all for stopping by and hanging out, as well as everyone in the chat, of course. We'll go around the horn one last time. If you all want to shout out your socials, plug your platforms, everything you got going on. Let's go reverse order this time. Let's start with Yeti. One more time
All
for
right,
the
guys,
people in the back.
Yeah, I'm swgoyeti, SWGO-YETI. And I'm on YouTube and Twitch, so come give me a follow on both those. It's we have a lot of fun when we're live, so come and check it out.
Awesome. Xaereth, where are you at?
I'm on YouTube and Twitch. So Twitch, I'm Xaereth, spelled XAERETH _prevails. And on YouTube, you can just cut the prevails off and search Xaereth, and you should find me. Times.
Implying there is no prevailing on YouTube for Xaereth.
No one wins on YouTube anymore.
No, it's just implied. All right. Cool.
Awesome.
It's yeah.
Gum, as I understand it, currently now part of the Xaereth plan. Where can we find you at?
Operation Metaverse on both YouTube and Twitch. T-Money and I, that's going on 3 years. Have been doing the Thursday night streams over there, the Galaxy's Edge, and then I am over on Twitch Monday and Wednesday nights at 10:30, and then kind of sporadically and randomly throughout the week. So come check us out. Thank you guys for having me. This has been cool. I learned some new tricks, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, stuff. All right, first but not last, Endallbeall.
So you guys can find me on YouTube. I don't have a Twitch presence yet, but just search for Endallbeall on YouTube, and you can find me there. On Discord, I don't have a Discord server, but I do hang out a lot on the Gambit server with Xaereth and Solo. So if you want to catch me on Discord, that's where you can find me.
And of course, with the co-host, Kin, your fine show that enjoys good finalizer gameplay. Where can people find that?
Yeah, 1 out of 20 fatal. Even a dog has his day. Yeah, I do a show obviously with Fatal that you guys are all on, and then one with Xaereth, where all of these kind streamers have allowed me to criticize give suggestions for other people to learn from. Once a week. Yep, that's me.
Awesome. And yeah, of course, if you're watching this by now, you probably know where you can find me. We have a Discord as well, discord.io/theplaybook. Lots of good discussion in there, lots of good suggestions, or if you just want to continue to track my stupid mod luck that never seems to end. Yeah, we'll be moving right along with 3v3 starting soon. CLS guide for LSTB went up this morning. We'll have another one for Ray Rebels coming up in a couple of days here, I want to say. And then I gotta correct the record on that Darth Revan Thrawn lead counter, because there was a screenshot that I saw of the win rate on that, and I felt it really, really miserable. So yeah, we gotta get you all winning, because when it works, it's fun. You just got to know the one part. And yeah. All right. I think that's it from all of us to all of you. Thank you all for stopping by again, and hope you all have a good rest of your evenings. Peace out.